back at it again with another video. This time, I'm going to be reacting to the follow-up video to the Japanese prison break. Let's get it. I was excited about it, but without further ado, let's get straight into this reaction.
I assume you've already watched the incredible Japanese prison break, and as it turns out, many of you had some lingering questions that needed answering, like where did all the dirt go? How can anyone break handcuffs with their bare hands? Why didn't anyone see the rust after using the miso soup? How can you add 3 more years to a life sentence? What exactly was Shiratori's initial crime that led to his first arrest? What happened in his life after being released from prison? Was this whole video just an ad, bro? And as a bonus, what's the next Kento Bento video going to be about? We'll get to all of that, but by far the most common question was, where did all the dirt go? So let's start with that. This is the scene in question, the setup for the 4th and final escape. The illustration shows him burrowing straight down beneath the floorboards. But how can that be if there was no place to hide the dirt? Well, this guy thinks the only possible explanation is that he must have eaten it. Others have suggested that Shiratori must have pulled a Shawshank Redemption and over time emptied it in the yard. But as far as I'm aware, he was in isolation at all times, so that's probably not what happened. No, the answer is actually pretty simple. Just as with most building structures, the foundation of the cell isn't built directly on the surface of the soil, which means there was more than enough room underneath the floorboards for the dirt to fit. And sorry that this wasn't clearly illustrated in the drawing, but let's all blame Charlie the illustrator for that. Another common remark was that this video must be fake, since there's no way anyone can break handcuffs with their bare hands. Well, this has all been documented. And of course, what makes this story worth telling in the first place is precisely because it doesn't seem real. But specifically about the handcuffs, remember, these were cuffs from the 1930s in Japan. Breaking them isn't too absurd an idea when you consider, and I'll quote this Reddit user, that Japanese iron at the time wasn't especially pure, mostly deriving from iron sand, which has a ton of impurities. It's likely Shiratori could snap the cuffs along the weak link. And on top of that, we know Shiratori had immense strength, making this all the more plausible. But what about his escape from the 20 kg solid iron handcuffs and leg cuffs after using the salty miso soup? Why didn't anyone notice the rust? Those metalwork guys apparently came every couple weeks or so to remove his cuffs so he could take a bath. By the way, sorry about the maggot shot. So why didn't they see anything? Well, the rusting was intentionally made obvious in the illustrations to demonstrate clearly what was going on. That was my call. But in reality, it wasn't so visible. And the way the specialist removed the cuffs every few weeks was by breaking apart the actual metal. So they never actually paid too much attention to the screws and bolts. Okay, so this one was kind of surprising to me. Quite a few people asked, how could there be 3 more years added to a life sentence, as was the case for Shiratori after his second escape? No, this wasn't a mistake in the script, nor does it mean that the prison keeps the corpse 3 years after death. Rather, the answer is that a life sentence is not what you think it is. A life sentence or life imprisonment can mean, yes, inmates remain in prison for the rest of their natural lives. But it could also mean for a fixed period of time, or until they are paroled. In 1930s Japan, I believe this period was at least 10 years. Nowadays, it's increased to about 35 years. And this may also help you understand how some criminals can be given multiple life sentences, like 2 or 3 or even 10 for the more severe crimes. Or, as the case with Terry Nichols, an accomplice in the Oklahoma City bombing, 161 consecutive life sentences. Okay, then what exactly was Shiratori's initial crime? The one that got him imprisoned in the first place? This was asked a lot in the comments too, even though I actually addressed it at the very beginning of the video. Prisoner Yoshie Shiratori had had enough. He was forced to confess to a murder he did not commit. But just to elaborate on this, Shiratori had a rough upbringing after his father died and his mother abandoned him at the age of 2. And he later found himself involved with a bad crowd, or seemingly some sort of gang, which may explain how he developed such skills as lockpicking, handcuff breaking, and prison parkour. Now, it was apparently these people who were the ones responsible for committing the murder, not Shiratori, but he made the mistake of tagging along. After they were all arrested, what happened was that the group turned on him and claimed he was in fact the murderer, and along with the police beating a false confession out of him, became the fall guy, and he was quickly convicted. Now that's apparently the story, but the circumstances surrounding this was too ambiguous for the courts, which is why he was still sentenced to 20 years at the end, as in he was cleared of the farmer's murder, a legitimate case of self-defense, but not the initial murder. So all that was what led to the events at the start of the video. As for what happened to him 28 years later after being released from Fuchu prison, by the way, this was the same prison that was referenced in the 300 million yen robbery that I covered in the Japanese bank heist video, a famous heist that took place 7 years after Shiratori was released from prison. I already touched on this a little with him meeting his daughter, which was a nice note to end the video on, but according to some sources, it appears, unfortunately, that his relationship with her was somewhat strained, which isn't all that surprising considering the stigma in Japan of having a relative in prison, and her never actually meeting him before. So after his release, yes, he was happy to see her, but he later ended up bouncing around Japan doing odd jobs in various cities, mainly construction work. And actually, why don't I play you the alternative ending that wasn't shown on YouTube, but only on the Nebula streaming platform? Just 14 years later, in 1961, he was released on parole. And for the first time in a long time, he was truly a free man. He decided to head back to Aomori, where it all began, and meet up with his daughter, who, by this point, unfortunately, was the only family member he had left. For his incredible escapes, Yoshie Shiratori became a legend, an anti-hero in Japanese popular culture, read about in books and depicted in movies. And even though Shiratori passed away in 1979 at the age of 71, his legacy lives on, perhaps the most, in the one place he wanted to leave more than any other, Abashiri Prison. Or at least what has now become the Abashiri Prison Museum, where Shiratori has been immortalized as a mannequin display simulating his renowned miso soup escape.
Wow. I wonder if that's how they used to dress back then. I want to say rest in peace, man. Shit. I feel for you, but not like...
So I was able to end the video this way, letting the story breathe, because new Kento Bento videos all go up on Nebula completely ad-free. And this actually ties into the second to last question here, one that I see all the time in the comments.
Sneakies.
Was this whole video just an ad? And that's seemingly a reaction to how I do segues. And of course, that would likely get demonetized, as well as fun collaborative projects like Working Titles, a series where each episode different creators examine the opening sequence to their favorite TV show. The Great Train Robbery.
I'm gonna watch this on my own time. I actually kind of am interested in what he's talking about now. I heard a couple of words here and there sprinkled around, and I might start doing multi-platform YouTube channel because I do be wanting to react and break down certain stuff. But you do realize that if I start getting into nitty gritty, I could say a statement. This is how fucked YouTube is. I could say a statement and end up getting copywritten for it. If I say a few keywords, the safest thing to do on YouTube right now is to make funny, original content, to do gaming videos, heavily edited gaming videos, or to do reactions, or to just sit up and react to fucking memes all day, or just fucking, because basically America right now wants you to be distracted as fuck from everything going on in the world. So for you to sit up and make a drama news channel means that you're distracted. You're not paying attention to anything going on in the world. You're doing your own thing, which is fine, but I'm just saying, like, you can't actually react to anything that would be considered symbolic, anything that would be considered what it's not, you know. Anyway, I just ranted a little bit, just a light rant, but every time I say this at the end of the video, nobody says nothing, but I'm gonna say it again. You don't come here to hear my voice, you come here to hear my reactions, which is just me staring at the screen. Even in the comments, people be saying, why the fuck are you talking? Shut up and just look at the video, press the end button, you know, so, man, nah. Fuck that, nigga. Fuck you, nigga. This is my video. If I wanna react, I fucking react. You can suck my dick, bitch. Find somebody else's channel to watch if you don't want me talking during my video. Bitch, find somebody who sit there and stare at the screen, nigga. If you want to watch the video, click the original link. As soon as you come to my channel, if I say, oh, that's funny, click off, bitch. Motherfucker. Stupid asshole.